Okay, in this lesson we're going to tackle something that's can be considered complicated, so you may want to view this one a second time. Let's say that we had this scene where we had all these different boxes and spheres, and we wanted this camera to be able to move through the scene. Now we could go in, we'll make this change to cameras, and we see what the camera's seeing. We could go in and hit auto key and keep for instance, say, okay, at 10 frames, I want it to come over here and rotate there. Then I want to come over to frame 20, and then I want the camera to move over here and rotate here. All right, and then we can come over to 40, and so you see what I'm doing? I'm manipulating how this thing's going to move. Now that's kind of complicated because it could take a lot of time. And then notice what's happening here is we really lost control of our walkthrough here. We're just all over the place. Looking in the top view, looks like that camera's out of control. In fact, it actually runs into one of the objects. And it's quite not maybe what we expected. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to delete all of those keyframes. And I'm going to move my camera out of the way for now. And what I want to do is I'm going to draw a path. I'm going to create a path that I want my camera to follow, almost like a road that your car follows. We go into shapes, just grab your line tool, and let's say we want to start the path here. We're going to click, and then we're going to use that pen tool, that technique, to actually click and drag a path. Now I'm going to do mine a little crooked here so that we can get the full effect of it. When you're doing your walkthrough, you're going to want to minimize the amount of bends and twists and turns and try to keep it simple. But to prove my point here, if I was to go and try to keyframe a camera moving this way, it would be very difficult. Now again, if you don't get your path right the first time, we do remember we can go to modify, grab the vertices or vertex, and use the spline tool to smooth things out. And that's going to be important because if it's real choppy, your camera will have choppy movements. You can also go down in here and look at your various steps here. For instance, maybe do like 12, which will smooth out the lines. That'll make things a little easier for your camera to follow. Now we also want to pick the line, and right now it's on the plane, which isn't going to work. We want to move it up so it's sort of suspended about there. So now looking at my front view, my camera is going to be about that far off the ground. My top view, it's going to make this motion. And I can actually go in and even manipulate some points and add some up and down motion in here. Now this, of course, you'd take more time to do this, but this here gives you the ability to create that coaster-like effect. Now, the final step, how do we make this camera move along this path? Well, we select the camera, and the one way we're going to show you is to use motion, the fourth tab over here. Once we do that, we're going to open up this assign controllers. We're going to use some of this. It says position, rotation, and scale. We hit the word position. So with our position, open up the controller, and of all the different ones here, we want what we call path constraint. So you'll notice here it says path constraint because we want to constrain this to a path. Once you hit that, you said OK. Over here in the properties to the right, it's going to ask for you to add the path. You have to tell Max, you have to tell the camera what to follow. So I hit add path. Notice now the camera is now linked in there. Now go ahead and run through your slider and notice what happens. The camera follows the path, yet it does not face the camera in that right direction. We have to come down here where it says follow. Select the word follow, and by default it's going to rotate the heck out of that camera, so we're going to have to set it back up so that it's pretty straight. Now, as it plays through here, our camera is actually going through the various motions now. See how we're getting kind of seasick here? It actually does almost like a loop, like a hill. So this is where we're talking about having issues with seasickness, is if you're trying to cram this much information in 100 frames, it's going to make you seasick. The other thing you can do is adjust the bank. The bank helps adjust the various things as you're seeing it. And of course, we can add additional keyframes in here. So let's say at this point, we wanted our camera to move. We hit Auto key, and we could go ahead and rotate it to face a certain direction. So at that point, it will rotate over. So our camera is really out of control because we use the bank and some of the... In your walkthrough, you do not want to do hills and bumps. You want to keep it nice and eye level. We can also take bank out, which will help. All right, now notice how once we took bank out, the rotation we made resets. So we're going to have to go back to the beginning, reset our camera, and say, okay, here we go. Now we can follow through with the various parts of our camera. So that's just an introduction to path following scenes. We can also do that with objects. So in our next lesson, we'll review this motion tab over here and do that.